Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're on episode 5 of Demon Slayer Season 2. Oh, I've been away for a week. It's been a solid week since I've watched episode 4. I had to record a little bit ahead, but I am so excited. Episode 4 has just come out on Patreon, episode 3 just out on YouTube, so I'm just a little bit ahead, but right back to where we were. And so, this season's been really good so far. I'm a little worried for Tanjiro, though. I'm like, dude, you really need some help. I know you want to face this demon by yourself, but I don't think Daki's going down easily, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it by himself. So I'm like, if you could get some help, that'd be great. But with that being said, I do have a couple of comments. So far, everybody's been giving some really cool comments about the series so far. I do want to note 2 specifically. AZ had a really cool comment with episode 2 that talked about kind of the whole Yoshiwara information about the entire Yoshiwara history as a whole, talking about how and I thought they talked about like where the place and time of Demon Slayer. Obviously it's in Japan, but I believe from season 1 it was kind of established it was like around the 1920s, and AZ talked about that AZ's comment was that they thought it was the late 1920s because World War I wasn't mentioned or brought up yet, and I was like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So it's around the 1920s. And so Yoshiwara, though, has been around since 1617, according to AZ's comment. And that around the late 1800s, it was probably at its peak with about 9,000 women working there in the district, which is a lot. And then in 1913, there was a fire that broke out. And in 1923, an earthquake nearly obliterated the entire area. I find that funny. So it'd be funny if this was taking place around 1923. So if this entire area ends up getting decimated during the battle, it would tie to the earthquake and they could just blame it on it, and that would just kind of like tie historically to it being destroyed in real life. That would be kind of cool, so that's pretty neat. But I'm glad that you had all that information in that comment, AZ, along with the fact that Akaza is in the upper 3 moons, and Daki we've established is in at least the upper 6. So I don't think she's upper 3 at all. I think she's like maybe 5 or 6. That would make sense considering where we are in the story. Makes sense. Akaza is going to be one of those later villains that we tackle way down the road, right? We just got introduced to him and he killed Rengoku, but he's going to be tackled like way down the road. Right now we got to deal with Daki and her. She's terrifying enough. She's a problem enough. We have enough to deal with her. And then Brianna A noted that Inosuke's full name is Inosuke Hashibira, and that he never gets Tanjiro's name right. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what that's from. He never gets Tanjiro's name correct. Inosuke is terrible with names, and that's just how he is. So yeah. Those are the comments for before we start episode 5. I really was sad that I had to go out of town, and I was like, dang it, I'm ending on a cliffhanger. Huh. And so here we are having to deal with episode 5, and I'm like, I'm fully hoping that Inosuke or Tengen or somebody comes to help him fight off her, or at least get him out of there, because he needs to go. He does not need to be there. Or Nezuko's been injured, and so he's trying to keep her, he's trying to keep Nezuko safe and told her to stay in the box. So there's that. But I'm pretty excited to see what all happens this episode and what goes down. So we shall see, right? So I hope y'all enjoy this reaction and discussion, but we're going to start Demon Slayer Season 2, Episode 5 here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. This season is going by so quickly. Next episode is going to be the halfway point, and this episode went by far too fast. Far too fast. I was like, how? So I feel like we just get into like it getting really good, and then they cut to it being over, and I'm like, how could it? I'm like, they just want me to keep watching. They want me to binge this season, clearly. Oh my gosh. But yeah. So Tengen, and I love first and foremost in this series, especially with season 2, that we're getting a lot of emphasis on sound, which makes sense because Tengen is the sound Hashira. But we've had that like going, that's been such a big thing in this season so far. We've had Zenitsu, who the thunder breathing is a form of sound and wind, right? It's connected back to those. So you have Zenitsu, who's been using sound a lot. Inosuke's been using sound. The musical composition and score itself for the season, there's been a lot of silent moments and moments where sound has really been incorporated. And just like here, when we get like just the faintest little breeze and that causes Tengen to go, what is that? And then it's his wife, one of his wives, it's like, oh my gosh. And seeing that it's Hinatsuru. And so, oh my gosh, but yeah, I've been wanting to see this whole season, to see how Tengen develops as a character. And we've seen like his flashy side. We've seen him be just absolutely ridiculous. And in this, as things are going to get real flashy, as we get that at the very end of the episode, of course, but seeing Tengen have like a much softer side to him and being like the devoted husband and showing how caring he is for his wives, like how much he cares for them, and being the most freaking romantic thing possible. I'm just like, oh, this is why you have 3 wives and they're all totally fine with it, because you're amazing. Okay. So we find out the one girl, she tried to poison herself and slip out of the house, but she was caught in the act. And the belt that she'd been wearing that was given to her by Wara Behime was used as a spy device. That's how she'd been spied upon. Makes sense. But yeah, and just the fact that they're all so loyal to him. And so we get the idea that he was a ninja too. He was a shinobi that grew up that was trained in the same house as the 3 of them. Okay. But just like him being like, are you going to be all right? And then like, as he holds her like close to him, I was like, just swoon, Demon Slayer. I see it now. I get it. I get why did I make Tengen get so off the husbando train so soon? I'm regretting so many decisions. First Zeno and now Tengen. I'm regretting so many decisions already. Put him on the husbando list for next year, y'all, and I will come back with a much different view of him than before. But yeah, so we're getting little bits and pieces into Tengen's personality, into how he is around his wives as compared to how he is around on the missions and everything. Like, he's just a very eccentric character, but that doesn't mean he doesn't care about the people he's really close to. And just, I love how intense he gets. He's like, I can hear the sound. Like, he's like listening to the ground, like how intense his eyes get. Oh, I love how serious he immediately takes the situation and then finds the food locker. And so at the time, it didn't hit me at the time watching this for the first time that, that little spidery thing, that cavern that he was attacking was where Inosuke ended up at. I didn't realize that's where we were going with it until we got down in there and we started hearing the stuff overhead. I'm like, okay, it was Tengen. So it all connected together. And sound breathing roar. So this makes sense. Again, talking about the history of Yoshiwara, if we're talking about this place getting destroyed by an earthquake, that would tie into the whole sound attacks, because it literally seems like an earthquake, right? It seems connected to the sound. And I like that Daki, is affected by the sound. She's like, what is that? That sounds ugly. I don't like it. And she even is affected with sound as close as the breathing that Tanjiro does when he's doing the sun breathing. Like, she's even affected by it. Like, so I love that sound is being a big part of this season, and it's slowly but surely started to unravel, so to speak, along with the rest of it. And so we go back to Tanjiro versus Daki, and I don't like this matchup at all. I don't get good vibes from it. I'm like, okay, I'm glad Tengen, I'm glad that you and Inosuke and Zenitsu, I'm glad the gang's all here. Glad we're all together here. Now, if you guys could just uproot and go save Tanjiro, that'd be great, because I don't get good vibes from Tanjiro at all, especially after this episode. I was like, Tanjiro, no. Didn't realize it was this bad. Should have maybe talked about this before starting the season. And so Daki talks about the sword being nicked. And yeah, his sword is already like, the edges of it are just, they look kind of like Inosuke's, only it's not intentional. And so I like that Tanjiro defends the swordsmith, but he also kind of explains why. And Daki doesn't understand because she's a demon. But she's like, well, the sword's got nicked, so of course it's the swordsman's fault, moron. And he's like, no, it's the sword wielder that causes it to get nicked. He's like, it's not the swordsmith's fault at all. He's like, it's because I'm not strong enough. And it's like, oof. It's like, okay, alrighty then. What we gonna do? And so, yeah. And so then Daki decides that she's just gonna kill him and it's gonna be the end of it. And that's when Tanjiro talks about how he is not compatible with water breathing, which is something that he's been doing all of season 1, right? So he's like, the water breathing technique. He's like, my body is not suited for water breathing, which it's crazy because he went through all of that struggle, all of that strife through season 1 to master water breathing just so he could become a demon slayer. And now in season 2, we're coming to terms with the fact that that may not be the best course for Tanjiro. He's like, no, he's like, my body's not good for this. He's like, I can't become like Urokodaki or Tomioka, like Giryu, with the water breathing technique. He's like, it's great for them. They're suited to be the Hashira of water breathing, but he's like, that's not me. He's like, it's not going to work. He's like, what I'm better suited for is for sun breathing with the Hinokami Kagura. He's like, that's what I'm suited for. It's just compatible with my body. But yeah, there's a problem with that though, and that is that as we come to find out, the whole technique, it weighs on Tanjiro a lot, and it basically like puts his body into distress. And so I love the little flashback that we get of our guys training like shirtless and buff, reminding us just how much muscle these boys have. We just don't see it because they have all the layers on. Again, insanity. These buff boys, I mean, we see it with Inosuke all the time because he's shirtless, but I forget that Tanjiro and Zenitsu are just equally as buff. But yeah, the sheer force from it, like, puts his entire body into distress. And so he just needs to train more with it and know more about the technique. And so I was wondering, though, I wondered too, we see back with his dad was always like frail and ill. And so part of me watching this episode, and I don't want any spoilers, obviously, I want to find out as we go, but a part of me was like, oh, so maybe part of the reason why his dad was so frail was because of the sun breathing, because of the toll that it took on their body. Maybe he had done it or something similar in the past. The idea that that Tanjiro, when he has a fever, when his body temperature rises and he has a fever, that he's more sharp with his swordmanship skills if his dad constantly had a fever and that just took a toll on his body over time. Like, I feel like there's a correlation with that, and that the sun breathing technique is extremely strong against demons, but it does take such a toll on your body that it's kind of like there's some recoil to it. It's a double-edged sword, right? And Tanjiro's like, I've been training for this, so I've just got to do it. And I love that he uses Rengoku as inspiration. He's like, no, Rengoku would want to set your heart ablaze and go and do the thing. And so he's like, I don't have a choice. I have to do it. But honestly, it made me like tense up and hurt seeing him like especially when he collapses and his muscles all go rigid. I'm like, ugh, like that just made me feel like having an anxiety attack in the moment. I'm like, no, Tanjiro, that's not good. No. But I love the idea that there's a sound connected to it, and he gets so close to doing something to her, and he's just not on the right level. He's just not at the right level to face her. And he barely is able to dodge. Like that whole scene of him just dodging out of the way at the last minute, he was barely able to do it. It's just, Tanjiro's just not ready. He is not ready to take on this upper rank demon. It's great that he's trying, and he's doing as well as he is, but he's just not ready. And this whole episode, while I loved Inosuke and Zenitsu and getting them all, the gang all together, in the back of my head, I'm like, okay, we're good. Now let's go save Tanjiro, please. Because I'm worried about our boy. I'm worried. And Tanjiro is so self-sacrificing, and he always thinks of other people far more than himself. So that when the one girl at the Butterfly Mansion, Akio, when she was like, you need to tell Shinobu about this. And he's like, no, I'm fine. It's okay. Like, Tanjiro is very self-sacrificing. He reminds me a lot of a character in Attack on Titan. He reminds me a lot of Armin in Attack on Titan, because Armin will always his moves during that series to like attack and, defend his friends always come at the cost of him putting himself in danger. And I feel like Tanjiro does that constantly. Tanjiro is not afraid to put himself in danger as long as he's saving somebody else. And I'm like, that's great, Tanjiro, but we'd like you to live, please. So I'm deeply worried about him. I don't like where this is going with Tanjiro. I feel like we're getting so much character development with Inosuke and Zenitsu, and I'm loving it. I'm loving what we're finding out about Tengen and his wives, but I'm like, Tanjiro, my dude, my protagonist, you're worrying me a little bit, just a wee bit. I'm getting bad vibes. I'm getting Bleach vibes is what I'm getting. I was getting like Bleach vibes of Ichigo up on the top Hueco Mundo with Ulquiorra. I was like, I'm getting vibes from that battle. I'm like, I don't like where this is headed. I'm like, someone needs to come help you before you hurt yourself and things get bad. So, but of course they're not going to show us that because this episode ends before we cut back to that battle, right? We don't get to see it. So we got back to Inosuke. I just love that the women in the house that Inosuke was infiltrating, they're just like, there's a monstrous boar man, and they have no clue that it was Inosuke dressed up as the woman. They have no clue. It's great. But I forgot that Inosuke can crack his joints. I forgot he's like literally double jointed and that he can like dislocate all of his body parts to cut through the hole. I forgot about that. I forgot he was able to do that. But it's so gross. My cousin can like dislocate her hand stuff too. It's like, ugh, I don't know. But amazingly, he ends up following and ends up in the lair. And it's so creepy. It's so creepy with all the bones and like the little pieces of ribbons and the scraps. So it's very disgusting, right? I love how Inosuke, he's like, the demon takes these people wherever they want and devours them. I love these, like, it's pretty savage if you ask me. Yeah, the idea that this demon loves beautiful things and tries to project this persona and image of beauty when really she's a monster. Like, that's the thing. She's all about things that are beautiful and doesn't like things that are ugly, but it's like, girl, you are ugly because you've become this monstrous demon. And like, when Inosuke is calling you savage, when the boar-headed king is calling you a savage and a monster, might be something to look into. But yeah, him saying that it's just like a worm, this worm belt. And then I love, he's like, what's he doing here? He looks at Zenitsu like, huh? Why is he asleep? What's happening? But yeah, and he notices he's like barging into someone else's food locker. So then this demon, this extension of her shows up that it's like, you damn stink bug. And he's like, oh, a worm. So this is the interesting thing. I was thinking that there's a part of me that thinks that the demon that is in the worm belt, it is Daki, but it's like an extension of her. So kind of like during Mugen Train, the demon, like it cut off its hand, had like the mouth and everything, and it was like an extension of it. I feel like this is the same thing, that the belt is an extension of herself, and as a demon, it's an embodiment of part of her demon self in just the belt alone. Either that or the belt is its own demon and it's just working for Daki. So it's either one of two things. It's either that the belt, but we saw the mouth from the belt, the crinkly mouth. We saw it asking Makio who she was, and that was connected to the demon. So my initial thought, my main thought is that, yeah, this belt is part of Daki. She can just take part of herself and make it become like the little side demon that we see fighting Inosuke. So that it's either that or the belt is a demon in all of itself that's just working with Daki. But I don't think that's the case. I think it's all one and the same. She's just making part of herself extending to this part of town to see what's going on. Yeah, so as she's fighting Tanjiro, part of her went to go see what was going on through the belt. And man, I love that it's like a snake, right? The belt is like a snake because the people just plop out of it, like plopping out of its mouth. It's so gross. And then yeah, I love that it all comes together, that Inosuke is like, he has really keen senses and he's able to slice the belt up enough. But here's the thing too. So he's like, his intuition is razor sharp and his ability to detect murderous intent is extraordinary. And it's so sensitive. He can perceive attacks from any direction and dodge them. Yeah, like he's just really good. I never expected a demon slayer to infiltrate the food locker. So, but then there's this moment. She's like, what should I do? And then we see capture him alive. So yeah, so that part of me thinks that this demon is a little bit different. It's an extension, either an extension or different than Daki herself, because it's being ordered by the upper six, by the moon. He's the one who got my way when I captured Makio. Yeah, so it's just, except for the 10 most beautiful, you can kill the humans you stored. Yeah, the 10 most beautiful, of course. So yeah, I still think it's an extension. So the question is, like, it's fascinating. Like, is the worm belt, if it is part of Daki, is it the human part of her? Is it the demon part of her? Is it just like a mix of both? It's interesting how she works as a demon and how this belt works as well. It's interesting. Very interesting. Devour some of the ones you can strengthen your body. So yeah, again, that makes me think that these are two separate entities. But doesn't matter because Inosuke doesn't care. He's just trying to get rid of it too so he can save the others. But I love that we have the introduction of Suma and Makio. Suma being like, they're like the freaking Powerpuff Girls. They literally are the Powerpuff Girls. Suma is like Bubbles, and you have Makio, who is like Buttercup, and then you have Hitsusura, who's like Blossom. Like they're like the Powerpuff Girls. Suma's adorable though. I really do like Suma a lot. She's very cute. She's like, I'm gonna tell Lord Tengen. She seems like she's the youngest, and she's like, I'm not a strong fighter. I'm not really a good ninja. I'm imagining she's more for, but she's doing a really good job, like slicing the ribbon in half. I feel like if she's not much of a fighter, she's more of like an intel gatherer, or maybe more of like a spy just to gather intel, even if she's not a fighter. Whereas Makio and Hitsusura, they seem like they're more of the fighters of the three. But I love that Inosuke's just like, what? He's like, why? Why is this happening? Who am I dealing with? Why are all these loud people here? And then, of course, Zenitsu, my dude, like just waking up and doing the thunderclap, and he just like, as he's falling down, him spinning just so dramatically, so flashy. Zenitsu, I feel like would aspire to be like Tengen. It's funny, at the beginning of this season, I was all about Inosuke learning from Tengen, but now that I watch this more, I'm like, oh no, Zenitsu's gonna learn from Tengen too. So you have both Inosuke and Zenitsu connecting to Tengen. Okay, sure thing. But man, I just love Inosuke because I don't think, has Inosuke seen Zenitsu work with the thunderclap? Has he really seen him do that? Because I love that it flashes to him and he's like, he should stay asleep more often. Maybe he should stay asleep the whole time. I love it. But yeah, and then of course, the muscular mice got out and they delivered Zenitsu's sword. Look at these mice. Look at them showing off. The humor in this series, even while I'm having like a mild panic attack from Tanjiro being in constant danger, the sheer humor from Suma and from Inosuke and from the muscle mice is just, it's slaying me. I cannot help but love it. It's so good. And then like a beacon, as soon as Suma looked up and the glittering in her eyes, I'm like, it's great. As soon as they look up and they realize that Tengen's there, oh, I love it. And there's wind, the sound, the sound wave, the sound breathing. I love it. And then Tengen shows up. He's here. Yes. Someone just came inside. And what a badass entrance. And his blade saying Destroyer of Demons. I love it. Destroyer of Demons indeed. Oh my gosh. But what I love in this is that we get to see Tengen's extremely compassionate side. His compassionate side towards his wives, but also, and his protective side, but just seeing him being like a stern, serious badass. Like, I'm a demon slayer. I'm a Hashira for a reason. Oh my gosh. And his gloves still have part of his original shinobi uniform on. You can see his gloves there. But, and him doing the breathing technique. This presence. A Hashira. And he just slices her to ribbons. Literally. Oh, I love it. And it just all crumples and everybody is rescued. Yep. And I love his wives are like, oh my gosh, Lord Tengen, you're here. Oh. And he's like, Makio and Suma, I'm sorry I took so long. What an absolute charmer. Like, I get it now. I get it. I get why y'all were like, oh, just you wait with Tengen. I get it now. It all makes sense. Yeah. He wasn't like this before. So that's interesting. I'm wondering if Makio senses that he's super serious right now because he realizes how dire the situation is, maybe. So he said the thought of dying didn't... I love we get this flashback, right? The thought of dying didn't bother me since that's how I was trained. And we see like all the shinobu, all of the ninja there, and their headbands all have the rocks on it as well, kind of like his, so it ties back to his ninja training. Okay. And so they say because I was a shinobi, especially since a kunoichi could never hope to match a male shinobi in terms of strength. So that's interesting. So basically she's saying that the women ninja were not expected to ever be as strong as the male shinobi. Okay, they're like, we're never going to be as strong as them, which is interesting. So she says because of that it was expected staking my life was something I only needed minimal effort to do. So basically she's saying because the female ninjas weren't expected to be as strong as their male counterparts, she's like, because of that, we were expected to be kind of disposable, that if we needed to die, we could, and our lives were pretty expendable. We weren't expected to live as long as our male counterparts, so we could handle dangerous missions, knowing that if we die, it's just part of it, right? And she's like, staking my life was something I needed minimal effort to do. Like, it didn't take me a lot to do or die missions because that was just how my life was. But then Tengen, and we see him, he has his hair down like he has been as a civilian, and he has like the purple band, and his outfit is more like the purple ninja. He's like, I only want you three to think about your own lives. And he has, his outfit is similar to it how it is now. It's just more purple than black. It is a little bit different. And he says, above all else, your top priority is to come back to me. I love him talking to them. He says, life over accomplishing your missions. He's like, even if you can't accomplish your mission, he's like, come back to me. He's like, I want to value your life more than the mission itself. What I'm saying is at odds with his occupation, but doesn't matter. I'm allowing it. He's like, because he loves them. And then after that, he says, the order that lives should go in is flashy and clear cut in my mind. And he says, first, you three. Second, law-abiding citizens. And finally, me. And we see like his hair's like all done over the side. He has the big jewelry and stuff in the ninja. And has like the wind things on his, like the little straps on his robes are like, kind of like what he has on the back to like see the wind. So basically, you three are the most important to me, then law-abiding civilians, and then myself. And they're like, what? As a demon slayer, it goes without saying that I'll also protect the public leading their nonchalant, drab lives. But to be blunt in my flashy way, you three are more important to me. Meaning that I'll protect the civilians, but you three take priority, so don't die on me. And then she's like, is it really okay that he can say that? He's like, if you put your own life first, you can't get much serious work done. Is that okay? Oh. Because she's like, we're used to just sacrificing our lives for the greater good, but you want us to like take priority in our lives to make sure we get back to you? Oh. And then the one girl, she says, I'm fine with it if Lord Tengen says it's okay. Not wanting to die or wanting to go on living. She's like, there's nothing wrong with that as long as it's not hurting anybody, and as long as you don't despise yourself, it should be fine. So she's like, as long as you're happy with yourself and you're okay with that, it's okay to want to live and be a little bit selfish. She's like, it's okay to be a little self-centered as long as you don't despise yourself and it's not hurting anybody. And interesting. But I love this scene with the three of them and showing how they all get along with one another and how they have that bond with Tengen. Oh my gosh. And then she's trying not to cry, but him coming up to all of them and he gives them the lightest of head pats. Just, I'm like, hey, you embraced your other wife. Now we see which one he likes the most. You embraced her, gave them a hug. Give him a hug at least. Oh, but there's no time, right? They're like, oh my gosh. He's like, I see that you've been doing some flashy work. You're my wives, all right. Oh, and Suma's like, oh my gosh. I love that they're like about to cry. Oh my gosh. I love that Suma can't hold back. She has to cry. And he's like, oh, and that look. Seeing like sweetheart Tengen that has the soft expression towards his wives. I get it, y'all. Y'all warned me. I'm seeing it now. Regretting those Husbando decisions already. And he's like, all right. I love him just showing off. Oh my gosh, with the moves. Yep. And he's like, starting now, things are going to get real flashy. Yeah, that's great. I'm glad they're about to get flashy. Can you please go save Tanjiro now? Because I'm worried about our boy. I'm worried about Tanjiro quite a bit. If you could go save him, that'd be great. And I can't believe it's already over. I can't believe it's already over. That was like the quickest. These episodes are going by so quickly. I don't like it. Nope, I don't like it at all. Dang it. So yeah, I like the side of Tengen. I like seeing this side of him. I like that the wives are safe. The one wife escaped. As far as we know, I like the other two wives are there. I like all that. I like that we got Inosuke. Zenitsu's been rescued. Inosuke's in. They're all gang's all together. Now they just gotta go. And if y'all could go help Tanjiro, that'd be great. Be real good if y'all could do that, because I'm worried about our boy. I'm worried about our protagonist boy, because he thinks he can fight this moon by his own, by himself, and he is convinced that he has no choice. And I'm like, yeah, it's do or die, but I don't think Tanjiro can do it. I think he needs some help, and I'm worried. So there's that. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to wait a week. I don't think I'm gonna be able to wait a week. I don't think that's gonna be possible. Ugh. So we'll see. I'm very curious to know your comments down below about this episode. I'm glad that our wives are safe. I'm glad that Tengen we're seeing sides of him that we haven't seen before. He's becoming a more well-rounded character. I liked this side of him getting revealed. Swoon, I get it now. I like that our boys are all somewhat safe, but I need to watch the next episode to know what's going to happen with Tanjiro. So I doubt it'll be a week, but we'll see. So in any case, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll be back very soon with more Demon Slayer Season 2. Bye.